In this video, we are going to learn about the absolute value of a number. What is the absolute value of a number? The absolute value of a number is simply its distance from zero. Let us consider a few examples to understand how to determine the absolute value. Let us consider the absolute value of 3 and the absolute value of -3. These vertical lines which we see written around each number is the symbol that we use to represent the absolute value. So this represents the absolute value of the number 3, and this represents the absolute value of the number -3. So let us determine the absolute values of these numbers by determining their distances from 0. So for that purpose, let us consider a number line. Now, first of all, let us consider the absolute value of the number 3. For that purpose, let us first of all mark the number 3 on the number line. So we can see that the number 3 is at this position over here. And what is its distance from 0? So we jump 1, 2, 3 times, and we get to 0. And so that just means that the distance of the number 3 from 0 is equal to 3. And so the absolute value of 3 will be equal to 3. Next, let us consider the absolute value of the number -3. So first of all, let us mark the number -3 on the number line, and we can see that the number -3 is over here. Now let's find the distance of this number from 0. We jump 1, 2, 3 times to get to 0. And that means that the distance of the number -3 from 0 is 3. And so the absolute value of -3 will be equal to 3. So we can see that the distance of the number 3 from 0 is 3, and the distance of the number -3 from 0 is also 3. And because of that, the absolute values of both 3 and -3 will be equal to 3. So both of them have the same absolute value. Next, let us consider 2 more examples. Let us find the absolute value of the number 5 and the absolute value of the number -5. So what is the absolute value of the number 5? It will be the distance of the number 5 from 0. So first of all, let us mark the number 5 on the number line. And we can see that the number 5 is over here. And what is its distance from the number 0? We make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jumps to get to 0. And that means that the distance of the number 5 from 0 is 5, and so the absolute value of 5 is just 5. Next, consider the absolute value of the number -5. So let us mark -5 on the number line, and we can see that the number -5 is over here. Now, what is the distance of the number -5 from 0? We can see that we have to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jumps to get to 0. And that means that the distance of the number -5 from 0 is 5, and so the absolute value of the number -5 will be equal to 5. So we can see that the absolute values of both the numbers 5 and -5 will be equal to 5. And this is because the distance of both of these numbers from 0 is 5. So from these examples, we can see that there is another way of determining the absolute value of a number. All we need to do is remove the negative sign, if any. For the number 3, we can see that there is no negative sign, and so the absolute value is just 3. But for the number -3, we do have a negative sign, and we remove that negative sign, and we obtain 3. Similarly, if we consider the number 5, there is no negative sign, there is nothing to remove, and so the absolute value is just 5 itself. But for the number -5, there is a negative sign. We remove that negative sign, and we obtain 5. So we can easily determine the absolute value of any number by removing any negative sign that may be present. Now, what is the absolute value of the number 0? Well, the absolute value of 0 will be the distance of 0 from 0, and the distance of any number from itself will be 0. And so the absolute value of 0 will just be 0. We can also look at this in a different way. If we want to find the absolute value of any number, all we need to do is remove any negative signs that may be present. Now in the number 0, we do not have a negative sign, and so the absolute value will just be 0 itself. So what do we obtain? We obtain that the absolute value of 0 is 0. Next, let us have a look at a few practice problems. Let us determine the absolute values of the given numbers. So first of all, we want to determine the absolute value of 7. Now we can see that 7 does not have a negative sign, and so the absolute value of 7 will just be 7 itself. Next, we want to find the absolute value of negative 9. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the negative sign, and what we'll be left with is just 9. And so the absolute value of negative 9 is 9. Next, let us determine the absolute value of 27. Now there is no negative sign in 27, and so the absolute value of 27 will just be 27. Next, we want to determine the absolute value of negative 105. All we need to do is remove the negative sign, and we are left with 105. And so the absolute value of negative 105 is 105. Next, consider the absolute value of 67. 67 does not have a negative sign, and so the absolute value is just 67 itself. And next we have the absolute value of negative 45. We remove the negative sign, and we are left with just 45, and so the absolute value of negative 45 is 45. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. See you next time!